Well, nice to see you again, Tina, and Deborah. Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here today. And yeah, like you said, a great segue. Coming in following Stephen Dean and the tremendous success that Atlantic Gold has had. So I'm just going to share my screen with you all. Aurelius Minerals. This is who we are. We're predominantly focused on Nova Scotia at the moment, and we're really focused on a path to production, and we're focused on three simple tasks: define, refine, and re-engineer. Why invest in Aurelius Minerals? Simply, we're Canadian gold explorers, predominantly focused on in Nova Scotia. We have 4 projects in our Aureus Gold subsidiary. We also have some great optionality in Ontario at our Mikwam project. But really, for the focus of today's presentation, we're gonna keep focused on Nova Scotia, of course. One thing that we bring to the table is that we're the only other permitted mine and mill in the province after Atlantic Gold. So we actually have a permit. There's tangible value to that permit. We've got significant mineral resource, and we've got great exploration upside. This is a map just showing where we are relative to both Halifax. We're about, all of our projects are about an hour and a half away from Halifax. And then the 5 yellow stars represent the 4 Atlantic Gold assets. And then Anaconda's Goldboro, which is on the east side of the screen, just south of our Forest Hill deposit. And they're actually presenting later today. So Kev will do a good job there. We're sitting on about 425,000 ounces of combined gold resources at each of our, all of our combined assets. And this provides us not just with a good understanding of what's in the ground, but really provides us a great opportunity for resource growth, for reserve conversion. As Stephen says, as you drill it and you drill it tighter, you can convert the confidence levels in those ounces. And we've got significant exploration upside. And part of that upside comes from the focus that we learned and gained from the Atlantic Gold model. A brief history on our Aureus East project. So the Aureus East is the existing underground operation with the mine and mill and with the underground development. Gold in Nova Scotia was first discovered in the late 1860s. So 125 plus year history, 145 year history, I guess. Stops and starts, a little bit of gold production came into play, but there was a really renewed attention on our projects. About 1986, people were poking away the junior sector. There were still the investors, but really, I would say about the late 1990s and early 2000, when we saw that resurgence in gold equities, that a lot of focus was actually put on this asset, and really then aimed to produce gold. There had been a small amount of underground development done in the 1998 to 2003, and that's part of the issue here. Is a lot of the work on the project was done via development without a lot of diamond drilling going into play. There was some tailings processed, but at the end of the day, we acquired this asset from Sprott Resource Lending a year ago, actually in February 2020. They had a small loan out to the prior operators. They exercised security, and we acquired the asset from them. So that's how it got into our hands. It last operated in 2018. There has been significant investment into the asset, and there's significant infrastructure there. There's about 2,500 meters of underground development. There's a 300 ton per day mill. There's tailings facilities. There's dry, offices. Probably about $35 million of capital was invested into the project. There's significant room for expansion of historical existing mineral inventories. And we're going to utilize the existing infrastructure and the assets and the permit that we have as we progress to our path to production. The path to production is pretty simple. I like to focus on simple tasks, 3 simple tasks. Define. We need to define resources. We establish those resources, then we can refine those resources into reserves, and then we're going to re-engineer the extraction methodology. Is it an underground asset? Is there a combination of underground and open pit based on mineral expansion and deposit expansion, which is really what I think we're aiming towards. but that's simply where we're going to aim on our path to production: is define, refine, and then re-engineer. Here's an example of some of that infrastructure. Top left corner is actually the mill with some sample bags in front of it. You've got surface garage. We've got some float circuits, our gravity table, a rod mill, and then of course we have the entrance to the underground excavation. This is the adit that was developed. The ore body has traditionally been viewed as a saddle reef system. So there's mineralization that's been stacked parallel quartz saddles. And that's really what we're demonstrating in the cartoon here. And this is, it's not to scale. This is just a representation of what these things look like. They would have been bedding planes when the Atlantic crust plate came into the continental plate of North America. These beds were pushed together, they compressed and formed waves. There was then an eruption of mineral-rich fluid. It came up through the system and filled the voids, and those voids are now filled by the quartz mineralization. What we've been able to benefit from is a lot of the work that Atlantic Gold did, and we've now identified a very distinct second gold population, and that's hosted in between those quartz veins. So not only do we have the gold in the quartz veins, but we've identified it in the sediments in between. And that's really what Atlantic Gold was able to do when they reevaluated the model. And that's how they identified the open pit opportunity, because there was much more gold, lower grade, bulk tonnage, but a lot of gold in the ground. And that's really been the opportunity for us. In doing so, we've had some pretty significant success. We acquired the mines and all the assets at the end of May. We raised some money in July, about $4.5 million, and we began a drilling program in August. We commenced firstly underground at the East project. This is actually a picture of the underground drill rig at the 920 level. I like this because it just shows the great level of housekeeping and the cleanliness. We've seen some pretty significant assays come back from this initial drilling. We've seen not just the high grade occurrences, 58 grams over a third of a meter, 20 grams over a meter, 113 grams over a third of a meter, but we're also seeing broader mineral tenors. And that's where we start seeing 16 and a half meters of 8 grams, 3.25 meters of 6 grams, 5 meters of 7. So we're starting to see more robust mineralized tenors as well, which really assist us as we look towards reevaluating extraction and methodology. On our west, that's our surface project. So our east is represented here on this map. Just to the south, about 1 kilometer, is our Aureus West project. The Aureus West project has not had nearly the same level of attention as the East, but interestingly enough, there was much more historical mining going back to the late 1800s and 1900s, where prospectors would follow and chase high-grade quartz veins down underground. So there's a multitude of shafts in the area that were down sometimes as much as 60 meters. But we've had some pretty significant mineralization identified here. There is a small resource of about 53,000 ounces. We've tripled that in depth or the extent of known mineralization to about 500 meters here. We've had some pretty stellar results as well. Half a meter of 46 grams, a third of a meter of nearly 60 grams. But here we're seeing much broader mineral tenors as well. So, 19 meters of 1.3 grams, 31 meters of a gram. So this is a very mineralized system. And the opportunity here is to drill and understand how this grows. And our opportunities are along strike. We have probably about 4-ish kilometers worth of strike between the east and the west project alone. And we're open at depth. If you see here up in the little cutout where it says the west drill locations, we also have a parallel ridge or structure that we're going to be investigating as well. So not only do we have the opportunity along strike and at depth, we also have lateral opportunity for mineralization as well. New insights at the east. That's what you like to see. Certainly, we were confirming what had traditionally been known in the Nova Scotia deposits, which was the nuggety nature of these high-grade saddles. we actually struck one hole number 3. We pushed that to almost 875 meters below surface. And in doing so, we started to intersect new mineralization and different rocks that are traditionally seen. There's a lot of metamorphosis. There's a change to those rocks, and they host gold mineralization. About 16 grams over half a meter was identified. That truly gives us opportunity to look at that extension at depth, and certainly growth beyond that. And it confirms the very distinct gold populations we have, that we certainly have the coarse-grained gold within the saddle reefs and along the contacts, and then the disseminate gold in halos. These are a couple of examples in the pictures of the VG that we see. Very typically see VG in nearly every hole, and in often cases in every shift. And our job is to understand how that VG sits within the global mineralized system, particularly with that background fine-grained gold that we see in the sediments. So lots of exciting things to see here. Our path to production commenced in August with our drilling, where we're trying to confirm the presence of the high-grade saddles at depth. We've done that. We've completed about 4,500 meters on surface drilling over on the west, and we've completed almost 6,000 meters here on the east. Phases, we're stuck in that same window that many other juniors are, right? Well, many other miners, period, is the delays from the assay labs. It's been very frustrating. We saw some delays of up to 16 weeks on getting assays back. And so we're still waiting on information. We need that information in order to, one, speak to the market, but also to design our phase 2 and 3 drill programs. However, we see some significant opportunity to really build this into a multi-million ounce area of interest. As Stephen alluded to, there is opportunity for significant mineralization here, and I think the real opportunity here at our Aureus East is moving that to production rapidly. And we're going to do that in a couple of steps that I've outlined here. And one of the opportunities is our neighbors down the road at Atlantic Gold. And ideally now we're drilling to establish an M&I resource. The timing on that is a function of the geology. The ore body will tell us when it's ready for that to be calculated. We need to get those assays back and commence our phase 2 drilling. As we gain that confidence, we will be doing re-engineering of the mine plan and establish reserves, and we'll look to the mine restart. And the mine restart will be focused on 2 elements. One, is there the need for us to restart our mill, or is there an alternate source of, offtake for our ore? And that's into the Atlantic Gold operations. And as you can see, Atlantic Gold sees a little bit of a drop off in their production in the years 22 and 23. In particular, year 23, about 50% of their production is subject to permitting. So there may be an opportunity in the short term for us to satisfy some of that because we're permitted. And that's where the tangible value is in that permit. We they don't just come along, they take a lot of time, and we've maintained that and we have that in our back pockets, so to speak. So that's really where our focus is. Our focus right now is the drilling, identify the resource, move to reserves, and then re-engineer an extraction plan. We also have significant blue sky potential at both our Forest Hill and Tangier assets. In an ideal world, and it's all subject to treasury, of course, we like to drill 10,000 meters on each of those. We really see in these block models that have been laid out here, these were always done and modeled with an underground focus. What that means is there's significant amount of information that's just non-existent from surface to the top of these deposits. And in some instances, that's 150 meters of void where there is absolutely no information. So what we're really trying to focus on is getting that initial information and really backfilling that void. Is there mineralization a consequence from surface down to the top of these existing resources? We seem to think there are, based on some historical information that is available, but it's nothing that we can really hang our hats on right now. What do you need? You need a management team. I'm a mining engineer by profession. I went to the dark side and spent 10 years in investment banking in London, New York, and Toronto before coming back to industry. I actually started on a handheld drill in Sudbury before paying my way through university at Laurentian. Jeremy Neemi is our vice president of exploration. a lot of good success throughout the industry in a variety of commodities, but most recently he was the Vice President of Exploration at GoldQuest, where they significantly increased those reserves and resources from a few 100,000 to several million, and saw a very significant investment from Agnico Eagle. Jeremy's been working with me here at Aurelius since the beginning in 2016. Jermaine Coombs and Lorna McGilvray are very well-established industry veterans. Amandeep Singh, our VP Corporate Development, former equity analyst. And then one thing we've done unusual to others is that we've actually brought a mine manager in early. We brought a professional engineer, formerly the manager of technical services at the Musselwhite mine that owned by Newmont. Billy's also spent quite a bit of time in the consulting side, so understands feasibility studies, understands bringing all of that information together, and then exacting an operating plan as the manager of technical services at Musselwhite. So he's working with us all the time and with the geological team. As we see these resources develop and we gain confidence, we're constantly reverse engineering extraction methodologies and really understanding the confidence that's coming to us now by applying engineering principles and really looking at it from a miner's perspective. The board of directors, Randy Turner's our chairman. Randy's a very seasoned veteran with experience in Nova Scotia very early on in his career. Mike Leskovic is our chair of the audit committee and CFO of Nighthawk Gold and the Northfield Capital Group. Garrett McDonald, who's also presenting here today at Maritime Resources. He's one of our directors. And of course, Gilles Arsenault, who's a very well-known and well-established geologist in Vancouver. And that represents the sort of board. So a well-balanced board of financial, capital markets, and operating and geological experience. With that, quickly, the equity structure capitalization, as Stephen said, it's nice to have significant shareholders and supporters. We have that in Sprott Inc., Goodman & Co., Northfield Capital, and board and management are aligned with shareholders. We own, along with Sprott, about a little more than a third of the company. And then we have a further 17% that's friends and family. So our sort of float is only actually in the neighborhood of about 30%. Working capital is just a little lower than this, actually. It should be updated. It's about $2.5 million. This was at the end of December. And so we're sitting on just about $2.5 million combination of hard and flow through. With that, I'm willing to take any questions.
Thanks, Mark. I think we have about 1 minute left for questions. So I'm curious about the infrastructure that you have. Do you have a sense of the value of that infrastructure?
Well, there's probably about $35 million worth of investment that went into that. I think it's hard to put a value on a permit, but let's put it in perspective. I mean, permits are, in average, they say 7-year exercise. So I think that there's significant value here in that permit alone. Plus, we have substantial resource and exploration upside. We're certainly delivering on what we said we were going to. We've spent the money. We're spending the money to identify those high-grade saddles. We've done that. We've further identified a much broader sense of that mineralization. So it's very similar to what Atlantic Gold is. And I don't think there's any reason why we can't look to ourselves to say, you know what, we're going to be the next Atlantic Gold. Certainly aspire to have something as great as that. And those are the pieces. We have the pieces there, and we've got the team to put it together, and we're looking to execute on that.